Hey everybody, been an interesting week for sure, post Seekers of the Storm launch. Lots of negativity going around, from myself included, but I want to make a video actually talking about the good positives from the update in DLC, because I feel like I haven't seen that anywhere yet. To be clear, I am not happy with the DLC and update, and I actually downpatched my game to avoid both. So every time you hear me say something good, just know that there's probably a few things I have, issues with it around it. But in very emotional times for the community like these, I feel like it's a good idea to remind everyone to be constructive about what isn't working, sure, but also what is. If the devs want a path forward, we should give them one, even if people like myself for now downpatch our games. And stop blindly hating on Gearbox employees or Hopu, please, because that doesn't solve anything. In fact, I want to be clear, the developers at Gearbox are people, and it actually makes me extremely sad to see everyone calling them all sorts of things. Be mad at the AAA system of gaming production, sure. Being upset with the content and the lack of understanding of balance, sure, whatever. But please stop being nasty to people who are given a frankly impossible job, regardless of what you think about their code. Empathy, please. Alright, obviously the art is great. The maps are stunning to look at, and it's really a testament that throughout the review storm, everyone can still say, yeah, the maps are nice though. Even touching up the previous maps, DLC maps included, with extra paths and trees was extremely cool. The skins are awesome. Artificer, Huntress, and Roadrunner ones being my new favorites. It's sick they went for the archetypal power fantasy outfits. I'm actually really happy they chose to give survivors from the first DLC extra skins also. That was something that was never going to be on my bingo card. The animation work specifically on the children and the scorchworms is actually really good. I recall them showing off the children in the trailers and was very impressed from the start. I like the little hand wave they do. As always, the music is good. I barely even have to mention it in this video because it's so obvious and has always been obvious to everybody. Chris, don't miss. The survivors, I think they have good intention, right? Seeker is a visually appealing character with a unique playstyle. No matter which secondary you use, they are new skills and damage options to the game. The verticality of the punch is something that promotes a fun combat style, in my opinion. Looking down to kill something that is flying above you feels different in a good way. And I like the intent behind making meditation more than just a damage and healing ability with the extra buffs, even if I wish it were a bit different. I think the cool thing about Chef specifically is the passive. Trying to make sure multiple stacks of skills are on every enemy is something we've only sort of seen with Deathmark, but has never really been taken advantage of anywhere else. I wish this was expanded on actually, like imagining the different combos of skills you use to kill enemies, dropped different buffs, not just healing. Like using your shift in your M1 creates a different buff than your M2 in your M1. It's an interesting canvas to build off of though, with the character mechanics wise. False Sun is actually the most interesting one to me on paper. I think he has the best gameplay intentions with his kit out of all the new survivors. The way the growth system works, taking items like Stake and Stoneflux Pauldron and actually making them useful is probably the biggest brain move the developers had with the DLC. This is one thing specifically that tells me they realized there was a gap in player desire for a few items, and I like how they went after fixing it. I like how the spikes are more interesting than just using an ability to deal damage. Holding them can give different buffs than just using them, and how they interact with the special and other abilities to increase damage in interesting ways. It's just hard to look past the janky feeling with the character and how all the moves feel, regardless of their high damage. But I think these are easier things to fix up and change than a total rework of the Survivor, for example, so to me that's a positive. The stage 1 gold pillars they added, well, just another circle to stand in. I know they just added more pillars. I actually find myself appreciating there's something else to do in the stages while farming for chests. I appreciate the introduction of more objectives, and that is something I've been wanting for a while actually. I think they could do more of this type of thing going forward. I view Void Seeds as a similar style of side objective that really breaks up the direct kill to loot to TP flow of the runs, so I like it. The one good thing about the False Sun boss stage I'll say is that I like how there's loot, honestly. Pretty arena also, but we knew the maps were nice. Okay, you know what? I like how the fight a Ruling Knight turns on you, on paper at least, kind of flipping the switch. I thought that was a cool mix-up. Alright, so items. I've been pretty vocal about them regarding bloat and loss of synergies, but this is a positive side of the coin video, so let me break down a few that I think on paper have good seeds of ideas and intentions here actually. Sales Star is the most common one everyone talks about. I've heard it's fun to get an extra item. It is, and it's fun to play around strategically with that. The biggest fault I have with things like regen scrap is that you can't really get to use it that often, but this kind of fixes that issue by just making it available every stage, which I think is smart. Shrine dolls and another I've heard a lot about from players. Ultimately, I think players just really enjoy their little treats, you know, getting a shiny little upgrade, and that's kind of what I was hoping more of the items kind of captured in terms of feeling. Sonorous Whispers is definitely a power item that brings a certain GG-esque quality feeling to the table. I think it's overtuned, but I also think that there's not many other items that were brave enough to be truly powerful feeling either. So I want to point at this one a bit and say it was cool of them to attempt to bring in a new super cool feeling red item. I like the attempt on that. And I think the prayer beads are also unique, was that we didn't have any items that related to the XP level of the game, which at this point feels like a weird antiquated mechanic to show players, because the only time a player ever looks at the XP bar is for banner sometimes. I appreciate what they were going for with trying to take in older mechanics like these and using them in a new and fresh way. Also, that has a bit of strategy behind the inventory. It's frankly, good job with the intention of that item. Speaking of, this item also works with a new lunar, which takes a neat spin at turning the XP system into the main game instead of money. I know most of you probably expected me to down talk this item because it's a lunar, but this is what lunar should be like. Game changing with almost artifact inducing qualities, in my opinion. That being said, I haven't used it. Cool idea though. Luminous Shot. I like the idea of creating more focused combos between every survivor ability. I think it could have been done a little different, but I appreciate the approach here to something that isn't just straight damage all the time and more closely resembles a cooldown based damage bonus like bans. The more we include effects that you have to think about, the more interesting combat becomes, in my opinion, so cool. Runic Lens, Electric Boomerang, they do extra damage. They can't be bad pickups. They boost proc chain effects. This is powerful. This is fine. They're not Aegis, but neither are they Headset or Behemoth. They're right around where red items should be, in my opinion, but I never really had a problem with the bloat of the reds here, even though I do feel like they did add a lot of them. Chronic Expansion, again, the concept on paper is kind of nice here, right? Snowballing damage creates a more interesting way to add to builds than just here's extra damage. Something you would actually think about sometimes when it comes to fighting. In theory, this should be one of the better items added, even if it can't be used all the time. The update also brought with it some changes I've asked for years. The logbook in-game is something I was begging Hopu for forever. And I honestly thought it was ridiculous that they never even had it, like, in-game in the menu, or, you know, in-run. Every time I've brought this up on stream or in videos, I've praised Gearbox for doing it. This is an amazing step forward to just good quality of life in general, and care about the player's understanding of the game. You can't even say anything negative about the intention here. It's just pure, and it's good onboarding for players. Speaking of, new settings added for players, nice. Like the options, auto-aim for people that need it. I'm a fan of having assistance settings, especially in single-player games. These are good. Hot roll is one the Eclipse community talks about a lot, specifically with how it's changed, but I've also been vocal about it probably being a good thing that the pots are theoretically more intuitive to roll now. The first thing that any new player tries to do is push on the pot. Not this complicated side-rolling kickflip tech we've learned to use for the weird physics pots over the years. So making it more intuitive for players and closing the gap on kind of weird tech, in my opinion, is okay. Even if it takes away some of the magic of learning these like really niche weird things that we have, okay. Yes, I know it's not perfect either right now. As of with everything, it's a little bit buggy. I'll be honest, I see the intention here, if it's intentional. And I'm sorry if it came across that I'm just a hater recently. I'm really not. There's just a lot of issues, and it takes a lot of my time to address all the issues that I can. Specifically on YouTube, you guys don't really get to see full conversations I have in runs on Twitch. And that really is the current downside of this channel, that I don't talk enough with just you and me, so that you can fully understand where I'm coming from. And a lot of it is left up to you to interpret just whatever I mean, which is mostly taken out of context, as so much of it is cut anyway, which sometimes isn't good. And honestly, the inertia of making fun of something that you dislike is pretty powerful. It was actually difficult in this video making process for that reason, but reminder, I personally wouldn't recommend the DLC for many reasons in this state with the amount of unenjoyable content to me, and I personally recommend downpatching for 1,000 reasons. If you don't want to do those things and you enjoy the DLC, from the bottom of my heart, I'm actually happy for you. Good. Actually. The mod makers in the community are amazing people as well, and they're taking it upon themselves to go out there and fix as many of the new update bugs as they can. So if you're intent on staying on the new patch, more power to you. but go and check out those bug fix mods so you can enjoy the update and DLC even more. If you stumbled upon this video and want to know more of what I think about the problems with the DLC, the last 2 runs I have on YouTube spend a lot of time here talking through a few things and showing some more, but I will never upload a full comprehensive explanation or review. It's too much work, and I don't care enough. I already streamed the DLC for like 40 hours in the first 3 to 4 days, complaining enough. I've been through it. And one last note, I also criticized Topu on Survivors of the Void when it came out, and still do. Barely anyone views Voidling as anything but a joke. I still don't understand the intention behind their wave defense mode that got easier with time, or why they made defensive items that simplified the game, and I was vocal about a few horrible bugs then. Not everything is always going to be perfect, but we should still be honest about what is fun and what isn't, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. So be nice, and I'll see you guys next video. Thanks for watching.